Now that we have our OpenStreetMap data into our Grasshopper file, we can start actually using the ELK plugin to start building our site model. So again, we have the file path connected to the location component. We can open up this ELK plugin tools and go to OSM data. So we'll bring this component in. And so here we can see it requires an OSM point data and OSM file path. But before we actually connect those, we'll just right click on the component itself. And so here we have feature type. And when you open this dropdown, you can see all the feature types actually included in OpenStreetMap, right? Sorry. So here we can see we have many things: building, craft emergency, highway, so on. So we'll start with highway. So highway in OpenStreetMap is actually what contains all of the roads, streets, freeways, and so on in OpenStreetMap. And now that we've selected that feature type, we can plug in this OSM point data from the location parameter into the OSM data point data component. And the OSM file path is just this file path which has our OSM data in it. So once we connect that, we can go to top view and zoom out a little bit. And so here we can see all the roads and streets and so on are actually represented in points. That's how the OSM data works in Grasshopper. And once we zoom out, we can actually kind of see how all these roads are laid out. However, obviously we don't just want them as points. So back in Grasshopper, what we can do is bring in a polyline component. So we can connect the OSM data ways into the vertices. Vertices just mean points. And here we can see that all these roads are now actually connected using polylines. What we can do, we can right click on the OSM data and turn off this preview just to hide the point. And here it's now much more clear. All the actual roads and streets are in our Rhino model. And so if you know about Grasshopper and polylines, we have this other parameter here, which essentially lets us control if these polylines are open polylines or closed. So if we bring in a Boolean toggle and plug that in, false means it will keep the polylines as open polylines. But if we make this true, it now closes all the polylines to connect them into closed polylines. However, obviously for roads and streets, we want to keep these open. So for now, we'll just keep this as false. We can get rid of this one. And there we have our streets for our site. A very good feature of the ELK plugin is actually the fact, let's say we copy this. I'll disable these for now. And if we right click on this OSM data component, so we'll keep the feature type as highway, but then we can go here and select feature subtypes. And so here we'll see all the subtypes of the highway feature type from OSM. So we have a bunch of different types here. Let's say we want to just select the pedestrian paths, right? We can click on that and click add and bring this here into the selected part and click OK. So it turns out in our site, none of them are actually set as pedestrian. So we can go ahead and change that again. Let's say remove, let's do footways. And now here are all the footways from the highway feature type in our site. So what we can do, let's bring in a custom preview. I'll connect that and then I'll just do like a color picker. Let's say we want the footways to be green, right? And then I can re-enable these ones, and now we can compare and see what parts are considered footways and the remaining highway datasets from OSM. And we can keep doing this to differentiate the different types of highway datasets within this and really customize our map to show all the different types of highway features, roads, pedestrian footpaths, and so on.